Welcome, AfterBuzzers. You are watching the after show for American Crime Story, The Assassination of Gianni Versace. Stay tuned for more.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Welcome, AfterBuzzers. We are back and feeling free, right? Oh man, after a week off, we're glad to be back. Again, my name is Shaka Smith. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Shaka Strong. Where can they find you, son?
It's just a young boy.
He's grooving.
Who am I? That's the question? Yes, Ronnie Jr. Hello. Social media at randomlyrj.
Hey, AfterBuzzers, you can find me on the Instagram and the internet at Russell Ray Silva.
On the Instagram.
Hey, what's up, AfterBuzzers? You can find me on Instagram at Bonjour Juliet. And I don't know about you guys, but after this episode, I just wish I could jump in a pool naked.
Oh, who's to say you can't?
Yeah.
We could all do that a little bit later.
Yes.
It's possible.
I think Darren Chris had some great scenes, great shots in the beginning of that. I'm sure he worked out, made sure he was ready for it.
I thought you were going to say he had some great assets. Oh. Mr. Shaka Strong.
Well, no, we were talking about it. We were saying how.
I was just thinking how he must have had to like diet, make sure the body was right.
No, that's right.
But the thing is, if you do get a butt shot, like I would want to do, like, you get the best lighting, you get the best angle, so your butt's gonna be at prominence, plumpage.
Wait, do you request a butt double that's better than yours, or do you go, you know what, I'm gonna rock this out?
Well, that doesn't exist, so.
You show your own booty.
You do your own thing.
You show your own booty. That way you could tag yourself in the photo like, yes, that was me.
And you could compete with Ricky Martin because, you know.
But can you, though? Can you really compete?
I was going to say, though, you said you like a strong tan line with a white butt, but...
Oh, I did say that. That was reflected on this show.
This episode did not have a...
We'll have to do a
It
poll.
was a solid tan all the way through.
We'll have to do a poll and get the viewers to tell us who had the better butt shot.
I do think everyone's gonna say Ricky Martin for sure. Yeah.
But
I mean, Ricky's butt was a lot nicer. Just saying.
But it was a real contrasting start to the episode because here he is in this opulence. And he's actually a kept man. Someone does want Andrew Cunanan. Someone does want him to be around.
Yep.
What did you guys think about, I guess, that relationship between Norman and particularly, I thought the Norman and Gallo, his friend who's sort of kind of watching out for him. What was your take on that?
No. I was just wondering what everyone else thought. Well, I thought it was good. I thought we could have seen more, and hopefully maybe in the next episode we'll see more. One of the things I really wanted to see, it was like we went straight to the party, which was nice, and that does show like the prime opulence. But I would have liked to see more of like that building process. But I guess you kind of have to go for the gold and get the big shot. But I don't know. That's what I would have liked to see a little bit more, was just building up to that. And there was a good job being done as far as him building his own mental imperfections, where Andrew believes things that aren't actually happening. That was good, but I felt like I needed just a little bit more, if I'm being like a little bit critical.
Of course, yeah. What do you guys think?
I'll hold off for now.
Okay,
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Is that allowed?
Wait, what does that mean? You hold on.
I'm still
are you on
processing my
protest?
thoughts.
Like,
No,
I
that's
plead
just
the
like-
fifth.
I'm still kind of lost in this strangeness.
But did
Yeah.
you feel what I'm saying too? Like,
Yes.
like it felt like on a lot of times it's good to just jump into a scene, but I thought that time I needed a little bit more. It's like we didn't even get to really get Norman. I mean, we knew it from the story, but that's why it was confusing.
No, I thought it was cool. And just to clarify, Norman was the friend, right? Who was like
No,
No.
Norman was the
He was the
old
sugar
guy he's
daddy.
with, the sugar daddy.
He was
Sugar daddy.
steamrolling Andrew in real life for some time. Yeah.
That was
gets
Daddy
in-
with a Z.
Blashford was his name.
Blatchford.
Blatchford.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Norman Blatchford. Yeah.
So in real life, he was a businessman who actually made a fortune producing insulations for cars.
Wow.
So made ton of money through that, and it was believed that he was like in his 60s, and in this episode we're celebrating Andrew's 27th birthday.
Yeah.
So definitely a sugar daddy.
Yeah.
Was taking care of him. He apparently was reported to giving him an allowance of $2,000 per month.
Yeah, and the vehicle was part of all of that
And
too.
the vehicle as well. We see him pull up in the show that based on that. This party actually did really happen too in real life. So I thought it was really interesting, and it kind of we at this episode we see more and more layers with Andrew and his craziness. But I'm sorry guys, like $2,000 a month nice house. Like that for me, that was the craziest thing of all. That he was just like, I can find better.
No, I mean in that year too. This is 1997, so things are a lot
and
different.
so that's even bigger. Yeah, and someone said, "What did Andrew really mess up his life?" Yeah, I don't think we know if it went down that way. If he demanded this list and that was the one thing that he walked away from, because it seemed like he was getting most of what he wanted, right?
Right.
Well, that's why I said that's what made it seem a little confusing to me. But as this show series has been giving us, they'll give us a nugget here, and the next episode they'll roll in like the how Norman became so integral to the life, and how the friend didn't like him, this, that, and the other.
Which I love. I mean, the dialogue. What I don't like about the story is the story's not making sense to me in terms of we never see the believability of Cunanan. We never really see. We never really see his friends actually ever believe him. They're never like, oh, okay, that's cool, and then they move on. They're always skeptical of him.
Yeah.
But I didn't like that part of the writing where it seems like the overall story doesn't fit for me, but the dialogue is so good. Like him in the back and forth with Gallo, talking about, if they love you, they don't know you. What did you guys think about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I was like, ooh, that's a good friend for Norman.
Yeah, of course.
Because you would hope that any one of your friends who sees someone doing you wrong would confront, your counterpart.
Yeah.
while he's getting high in the bathroom.
Right?
I mean, they already didn't like each other, but
Yeah.
Just a party favor, right? Is that what he said?
no,
in the
it's
episode?
just a little
Just
pick me up.
a little pick me up.
I don't know about you, but that's...
A major pick me up,
I
huh?
was gonna pick you up and put you somewhere else.
Yeah.
I know that was kind of nasty. Yeah, I love a good friend who's like, no, don't. I see exactly what you're doing. I see who you are. I thought that was great. And like you're saying, they should just give us little tidbits. And that line was just perfect. And it summarizes so much, right? With so little words, you say so much. They just don't know you.
Yeah.
He's like, they love me, but no, they don't know you. And it's true. No one does.
And I think the intelligence of Norman is what I think endeared me to him in this episode, because Andrew Cunanan is a very bright guy. Apparently, IQ is 147.
He's really smart.
Really smart guy.
Smarter than half our presidents.
Well, at least one. But but you see Norman kind of say, "Look, you're not fooling me here. I know exactly who you are.
Right.
I've indulged you because I kind of like you, but here's the deal."
Right.
And as you mentioned, maybe Norman gave him that, at least from this episode, gave him that first spark of, could I be the sole heir and not be with someone?
Oh yeah.
He felt he planted the seed in this episode.
And the thing is, like, when something happens to you, probably in the good or also in this deceitful way, it almost becomes like a drug. I think that even happens with success with people. Like, there's people that I know that, or we all know that are like so successful, and they just that isn't enough, and you're just like, wow, like. I remember you 4 years ago when you were bumming it on the couch, and so like that's a weird correlation. But the thing with this is like he was so in it in a good way. If that's what he wanted to do, and it sounds like that's everything Andrew wanted, to maneuver, to manipulate, to have money, and to be able to suggest to the guy he's kind of with. Being sponsored by, to also allow this new boo David to come into the picture.
This new boo.
So
like
I said, the only reason I wanted that scene to be a little stronger is because I didn't get the confusion or the chaos that scene could have maybe had a little bit more of.
Yeah, and I don't think in real life they ever met Jeff Trail and David Madsen at that point in time, and so I think they fictionalized that meeting at the party.
I'm not sure
because that didn't work for me.
I've done a lot of research, as we all have, but that was the one that I always had a little confusion on.
Right.
With the way they said it today was more like as if it was there, and
because apparently Andrew believed that they may have known each other before, but he had no idea because he just thought it was weird they both ended up in the same city. These two guys that he knew.
I had noted that as well, like that he might have made up this story in his mind that that them two were out to get him. Therefore, he, pinpointed them to be his victims for the fact that he somewhat loved both of them in a different way or like at a different time. Therefore, leading him to like snap at one point. Because sometimes, as people, we tend to make assumptions, or we, come up with these random stories in our head.
Well, I mean, but even beyond that, because like this was from the way they were talking about it, was one night, and then he's in love with David Madsen.
That part, I thought we were gonna get to that later. That part really confused me too. I mean,
for
some reason in my head,
they insinuated they dated in an earlier episode, they insinuated they had a real relationship.
I mean, even if I go to a strange city and have the best sex I'm ever going to have, and this is going to be the greatest weekend, I don't know that I could like literally have this thing in my head where I'm like, oh, this was the great love of my life. Like, if I'm going to have the great love of my life, I need to have a little bit of a backstory and little bit of a history. Like, how was, because that's, as far as like the movie versus like the reports or whatever, that was one of the things that a lot of the, the people, the journalists or whatnot, had said that was recorded that David was talked about in a highlight.
Yeah.
Right.
So that seems to be true, but it's like, where's the story? Like, where is their meeting? Like, can't just rely on one hookup, but I guess it is.
Unless they're really trying to highlight like mental illness and say like, because we really see with the mother that maybe there's a history of mental illness. So
his mother was cray.
Right.
Same.
That was definitely an interesting layer, and we've been leading up to it, right? Trying to figure out about his mother, and there's times where like, okay, she's just really sweet, but she's just a little off her rockers.
Well, I mean, it did take me a minute to realize his adult mother was bathing her adult son, and I was just like, this is really bizarre.
Well, how did you guys feel when she said you don't smell like your normal self?
Yeah.
So she started scrubbing harder, and she was smelling the back of his neck.
That's when it got weird for me.
To me, I found that was the most interesting point, because I thought it was, here's this person who's tried to layer himself in this wealth. He probably smells like some cologne she's never smelled before, and she's like, "This is not you," So I thought
I thought it was more leaning towards drugs, but yeah.
No, I thought it spoke to him trying to cloak himself in this fake persona, and it's not him.
Well, I don't know, because I think to your point, like when he opens the door, he's sweaty, and you can tell he's
Very
like
strung
has
out.
crazy withdrawals. I think it was really, really strange, especially like he's in the tub, and now you're smelling him. Like, I don't know.
Well,
It's
that's
weird.
why I thought it was a psychological thing where she's like, I can smell that you're not the same person.
Right.
Like,
So it's like a feeling more than an
and I
actual-
thought that was beautiful too, because we did, as viewers, we wanted to see and understand the mental illness of the mother. But remember how I think I made a comment when he was with his friend in Miami, Ronnie, the guy who was, obviously had a lot of issues as well.
Right.
And there's to me, obviously people go through stuff, but the non-judgmental side of me will always kind of see that, like, people that are either strung out on drugs or mentally ill, as the mothers, they say quite tough, there's just an instinct that they both saw. And I think we've seen Ronnie have instincts in his demise, I guess. And then I think the leaning over in the bathtub was where we learned that the mother, although she is off a smidge, not to be funny, that line.
I was gonna say it a lot.
I do love using the word smidge. That is like I use it like when I don't even have to. It just spoke to the instincts that she'll go and speak every conversation that doesn't make sense, and if you know your son, even if he's adult now, you still know. I think you have
something ain't right.
And so like she's so off and she's missing it. But that was where
she has
was,
a moment of like.
She's like, yeah, but I mean, how much does she retain just because of her condition?
What I thought was even more interesting was actually the scene after that when they're having dinner or whatnot, and she's going off about the jealousy thing, and she's so proud of her son, but not really about his accomplishments. She's just proud that she can throw it in other people's spaces.
Yeah, well, I thought that probably reinforces a lot of his lies. Like, so if ever he felt he could try to give them up, he now feels he's locked into them because he's making his mom so proud.
Well, and I think we're somewhat going out of order today, but that's fine while we're going to talk about the parents. Yeah, we have seen a constant push from his youth. We haven't even seen the father yet, but there were a lot of things that were truthful in some of the narrative today. I think he said something. I'm sorry. I think he said something along the lines of, "Oh, and when I was a child, when he had the fancy LA date with David,
Manson,
he said, and from as many of the documentaries I've seen on this subject matter, they actually did give him the master bedroom.
Yeah.
So that's like true right there. So that, how we don't know when we're watching the show, like if if Andrew's saying anything for real, that was an actual thing.
So that's what upset me about this episode is why is everyone so skeptical of Andrew when he's producing? Like, if someone sends you a first class ticket and you go there, they've got the Mercedes, they've got the penthouse suite, they're by themselves. Why are you still skeptical at this point?
Okay.
And then he actually tells you the truth, and you're still skeptical at this point. It just doesn't make any sense for the character for me.
But have any of you guys ever been on a date when someone is just doing too much, and they're doing too much and they're trying to cover up something else?
Well, it depends how you look at it, because I don't like any bit of conversation without me knowing everything.
I have been not on a date, but I've known people that have flaunted their wealth, but I never questioned the underlying wealth. I questioned like why they were doing it and what insecurities they may have had. But like it was clear to me they actually had money because of the things you see. So I just feel like in '96 you're not going to question whether or not the actual person has the money because they're actually paying for things.
Yeah,
It's not
I
like
don't
now
know
where
if
you-
he was actually questioning it. I think he was just creeped out by the whole thing.
Yeah.
And when they're having dinner, he's like, can we just push all this aside?
Yeah.
He wants to push all the fancy foods and he wants to get to know him. Like, tell me about your parents. That's a really, common question.
But he seems to not believe him. But he's
Well,
telling the
no,
truth.
but
and-
I
He's
think
the
he
homeboy
was.
telling
But that's
him his
because you
mo-
try with people.
I think he was just doing too much, and David didn't want him to do too much. Because
Right.
for myself personally, like materialistics and big dinners and expensive dinners don't mean a thing to me. I'd rather have a good
Let's
conversation.
not say don't mean a
laugh.
thing.
Wait,
No, they
yeah.
really
Let's
don't.
not
Like,
be
it's
crazy.
just-
But in that conversation, wait, did that conversation
Just
come?
a smidge.
Don't rule everything out.
Just a
Jesus.
smidge. Wait, did that conversation come off as though Andrew was lying the entire time,
Well,
David?
No,
homeboy said that his mother was throwing him lobster over a
Over the
gate.
fence.
Well, he
yeah.
went to a I mean, I don't know if that happened. but he went-
Elementary
And he
school.
talked. He
He
talked
went
about
to a private school.
Elementary school.
He did get the master bedroom, like.
And
you
the
know.
lobster thing he already did say when he was with the guy in Miami too.
I know,
so
but
it's the
come
same.
on.
It's like at this point he says lies that are so
I mean,
prominent they almost feel like truth.
If he would have said a crawfish, I would have believed him, but a
But,
lobster.
but you forget it may have been true because his mother suffered from mental illness, and they gave him the master bedroom. So clearly, they prize their child to a degree that most parents don't prize their child.
I personally think
very
that
fishy.
David just read through the fact that that Andrew was doing too much. And he got suspicious. Not suspicious, but he was turned off at the fact that he was trying to overwhelmingly impress him versus just be a person and connect on a genuine level.
Yeah, on like a human basis.
I
Yeah.
also thought we saw with David is just the same bit of conversation we're seeing because earlier, on the last episode where David and Jeff were talking about things, Jeff was like ridding himself of the situation, and I'm sorry, I said that completely wrong. David was still giving the benefit of the doubt multiple times, whereas Jeff, on a number of occasions, airport and walking to the hall right before Jeff got murdered, David would give the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, he's changed, this, that, and the other. So what I'll say is I think that David, he keeps trying. That's all it is. I think he keeps trying, and I think he sees the imperfections. I think he sees the lies, and then he's like resonating with himself to like stop. Okay, we do have something here.
But he's gonna let him stay with him now in Minneapolis.
Well, he didn't have a chance. He didn't have a choice.
I don't know. It just doesn't match up for me. But did you guys think we got from Tiffany that she felt this episode humanized Andrew? Did you think this humanized Andrew?
Well, I think it really explained what he was after, right? The theme of love kept coming up, and that's what he wants. He wants to be loved. That's his definition of success, of purpose. So that's what we're all seeking is purpose, and he wanted love, and he's jealous of everyone who has it.
And he's willing to change anything about himself to try to achieve it.
And
Right.
there's a couple quotes that came up throughout the episode that speak to what you said right there. One of them is when he's sitting with Norman, and they're talking about the list,
Oh, yeah.
so he could be the beneficiary.
What a great list, right? I was like, I support that, and that.
Yeah.
Check.
It was a beautiful list, and I think Norman had kind of got in Andrew's face, but then Andrew says, well, if I can't have love, then I want the list. So right there, it's just a big resolve in Andrew's mind that like, and somewhere from wherever we're going to go in future episodes to this point, like he just doesn't believe in love, but yet people are making him believe in love. So how does he resolve that? How does he resolve in being successful? Another key point is the mom, did she or did she not say, oh, if you don't bring children into this world, your
Yes.
life is nothing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you guys want to talk about that?
I thought that was going to
I don't have a child, and damn it, I'm not nothing, am I?
I ain't got no kids. I don't want no kids.
Well, I mean,
Bad
I think it was sort of like a traditional notion of, you leave something behind.
A legacy.
A legacy.
It gives you purpose, and
Yeah.
it's just it was funny because I was wondering, I'm like, okay, is he gonna say why? Are they even gonna
Like
have
a
that
come out moment.
conversations?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it really showed their relationship because he didn't even try to go there and say like, well, mom, this is why kids are not really in my future, or I don't, maybe I don't even want them. Like he didn't even try to explain.
Well, one wonders if the love that he'd always thought might have been her love, and so maybe he always wants to appease her.
Maybe, but maybe not. And I know that sounds vicious, like, just because if the dad was, a con on some level, too.
Well, he actually was a stockbroker, but
cheating. And then the mom was a little mentally ill, and then all the older siblings treated him like the king.
Yeah.
I feel like he reads love differently. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like if
That
if
can
it-
make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he might tie love to money or love to things or love to what people provide and offer to him.
Right.
Well, and how much do you really like taste and touch that love if like everyone in your family is building you up so much?
Yeah.
You know, people that I like in families, I'm gonna tell you, I say this all the time. Don't hate me if you guys aren't. Are you the oldest sibling?
Only child.
Okay, then you're
Shaka the one.
You're our oldest sibling.
Follow him as Shaka the One.
I thought it was Shaka Strong. Are you the oldest sibling?
No, I'm the baby.
Oh, you're the worst. What are you?
I'm the baby as well.
Oh,
Thank
no.
you.
No, the oldest is always the best, and that's I am. And the reason I say that is because
Right?
we bring this is my truth. We bring in the youth, the younger ones with so much love. So you guys don't. You guys are just like, you guys benefit because it's like a little easier for you, and that's what I'm saying. I'm only saying this because this is how I tell my siblings this all the time. I'm like, y'all just. I just done rolled out the red carpet for them many a times. You know, we're completely different people. But the point is, the older siblings giving Andrew love. You guys weren't trying to hear any of that, I can tell. and the parents with their both respective issues is what causes Andrew to like be loved, because he was obviously loved in that house as a child, but not in the right way, because he's the baby and he's so picked up. I say that to my little sister all the time. I'm like, when did you ever pick me up? I was, you know what I mean? I'm 10 years older, but like, and that does something to a person. I always tell my sister, I go, you coming into this world, you're way more confident than I ever was. Like, I was never confident until I was like last week. You know what I'm saying?
You had a few people to like always affirm you and confirm you, and
that's how I actually feel. So I guess y'all them.
He's like, not
shook me
so
down
much.
and tore me up and threw me on some road.
Made you
said,
stronger.
Figure it out. They made me Shaka Strong. And I'm over here still weak.
Okay.
But we do know that Andrew actually went to the Philippines for a little bit with his father, and like came back and was like traumatized by having to live in the conditions he thought were absolutely horrible. So I wonder if that also fueled his like rise and drive to continue to get more and more and more.
Yeah, always seeking out this lavish life and these expensive gifts. What do you guys think about him asking his friends to Trail to fake gift him some shoes?
Hated it.
And
more of the same.
Ferragamo.
I think it was just more of the same. He just extended his pretense to those around him.
Right.
I hated and loved it at the same time.
Oh,
Really?
of course, right? Yeah. Your friend said you're not quite good enough, but I'm gonna make you good enough. So don't worry. Don't worry.
I mean, on his like his game is tight. I mean, he's got it situated really good. So that part of it I like, but just the deceitfulness was horrible.
Right, there's deceitfulness was crazy, and it was sweet and sad at the same time that Jeff Trail was so like confused, but still willing to do it because he's that good of a friend.
And what I didn't like was there was no emotion from Andrew about why Jeff left the Navy. Like, I get giving him the shoes so you appear to be a better friend, but he left the Navy for this particular reason. Why would you have him pretend to be this Navy officer? So at that point, Jeff Trail for me should have been done. And so that's why
I know, but don't you think that these people are trying to be done?
No, because
that's a good point.
Because they don't need to be. They don't need to be in Andrew's orbit. At least Jeff Trail.
Yeah, but how do you just cut it off when you still have? Okay, so like if Andrew came in and helped out Jeff at his first gay bar, that meant a lot to him. How do you just cut it off? If
oh, you sent a postcard to my parents. Yes, cut off.
But I was going to say,
well,
in both situations, Jeff and David explain themselves to their next moves at some way, shape, or form to Cunanan. Why is it that we as people explain to people or explain to others who hurt us our next moves, even though we don't want them part of our lives?
Well, that to me, I think was a failure of the writing. I think these things.
Okay.
I think these things didn't make sense to me in this context because, and also they're his good friends, but then they're gonna openly flirt in front of him, knowing that he's in love with both of them. Or
well, no, I don't think it was that. I don't think they were openly flirting. I think it was how Andrew registers stuff. So if he is using every single person in that room, from Norman to even Gallo to David to Jeff to Lee to is it Marianne was the girl? I mean, everyone is.
Mom,
okay. The friend. Who's
The
Blondie.
friend, Blondie. Her friend is Lizzie.
Oh, love Lizzie.
I think it's all.
He was friends in real life with her since junior high.
Oh, let's
Love
get her
that.
on the show.
Yeah,
we
love
get her on the show.
That would be a good interview.
That would be a great one.
Lizzie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure the real Lizzie is very flattered by the
Right, she's played by Masters of Sex's Annalai Ashford.
Yeah, drop dead, gorgeous. She's
Yeah, so
beautiful.
pretty and funny. She's very interesting.
But I think Andrew, what he does is he puts people up as pawns or whatever towards each other, and then when it goes, because he's so controlled that when it goes a slight awry, he develops these fallacies in his head.
Which you think they were showing it because the way they showed it, they were clearly openly flirting in front of him. You think they were showing it through Cunanan's eyes, or that was the reality of the situation? Because there's no way your two best friends at your birthday party are doing this in
You
front
see
of
what you want to see. If I saw the guy playing David, and he was at my party, I would assume in my head that he was just filming me.
Well, because
not David. I keep saying I'm wrong. The guy who plays Jeff Trail, who was also in the movie Broken Heart. But yes,
because that picture was too funny, right? It's David and Jeff together.
Oh my God, I know. They were
we've been dating for a year.
Sorry to disappoint. That picture actually it reportedly never happened.
Oh yeah, they never met. So we know they never met.
I know, it's so sad though. I was like, I wish that was a real picture because that's insane. A year before all those murders, in that picture, there's only one person he did not kill.
Well, I think that's why it didn't.
I know the one who gave him the most money.
Yeah.
No, man.
I think that's why it didn't make sense to me because it didn't happen. So all those actions just didn't mesh in terms of the actual story because. They wouldn't do this. They wouldn't have met and then.
Well, the only thing that might have been important by that is like there's always the common question of like how or when or if Lee Miglin was known to Andrew.
Yeah.
So I think this was kind of a big party, shows kind of how Andrew lays it on for people, and this would be something that Lee would be able to go to.
Yeah,
Obviously, the event had nothing to do with Lee, but I think that's what the party represented, maybe.
Well, yeah, and I thought that. What did you guys think about the interaction with Lee? I thought that was very awkward, very weird.
Andrew, what he did was he studied social lights and people with power, and then he inserted himself at house parties that were open so that he would gain the opportunity to be at these other events, which in essence pushed him to be with Ashford.
With
is that his name?
His name is
Brashford.
Blashford.
Norman.
Sorry, excuse me, everybody. With Blashford, yes. And
You're going with last names today. You called Andrew Cunanan instead.
You know,
You're just on that next level today.
That military.
But to your point, he would really, really study them. He would go, he would find them, and he would like.
He found isolated individuals with no families.
Exactly, and would really, really study them. He, if he found out they like flowers, he would be reading, a book about like freaking orchids, and just be spitting everything out as if it was part of his whole.
I was going to say that, and I think when you had said, like, oh, why aren't these people leaving him? I said what I thought about why Jeff didn't leave him because of the prominent first meeting. But I think, he does that. He tells David, he speaks to David's future. Like, he knows David wants to be a top...
Right. He makes people feel seen. And a lot of these men are old, closeted men, and they feel seen by him. And that's something very, very powerful.
And that was one thing I was confused about with Lee because I always felt like Lee was trying to keep things with Andrew kind of quiet, but here he was at this party taking this picture. I thought.
Well, I think Lee wanted to make things quiet because of his wife that he really respected. But he still, as we see in this short scene, he has a lot of affection for him. Andrew makes him feel alive.
And I guess
so. He doesn't want to like his wife in that whole situation. He doesn't want that to be known publicly because that will ruin his face. Yeah. But he still enjoys, he's like, he looks so handsome. Like, it gives him like a thrill.
And not only that, but Lee Miglin is several hundred miles away from his home in San Diego, where he's at a party predominantly surrounded by gay men.
Right.
So he's able to be himself. And
as I said,
if anything, you might find another one.
And as I said that, I remembered it was 96 because I'm thinking the picture. Your wife will probably see it, but 96 she probably won't see it.
Yep. No social media at this time.
No social media at the time.
Tom didn't invent MySpace at that
Yeah.
Not Tom wasn't even around, right?
I think there was a study once that said it was so much easier to cheat before MySpace. So, like, you
It
could
really was.
I mean, but now Snapchat's to a whole nother level.
Stories.
No, they teach you this in college as an investigative journalist on how to look into these things and how to read. Yes.
Nice.
Yes. So you're able to find everybody's dirt.
We'll be doing
I
some
never had
Googling
straight
later,
teeth
right?
before now, but
No, you
God
can't.
breaks us to care.
What did you guys think about what I kind of enjoyed about the episode was a little bit of the highlighting of the mental issues because I think there was more mental issues with Andrew Cunanan we don't really see, but also the substance abuse because we don't really talk about how the substance abuse may have affected his psyche.
Right, very
I
good
think we're
point.
all trying to figure him out from a rational point of view, but like he might have just been a little crazy, he might have been on drugs.
Right. No, very good point, that really, I mean, that must fuel it so much. And
Yeah.
we see him, you know, kind of the drugs really you know, get, I forget the word,
Escalate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You go
Yeah.
from
'Cause he's
cocaine
going
to
from
like
crystal meth or
crystal
something.
meth. He's like putting needles in himself, and he's really just like, we see him just like sweating and having withdrawals, running out of money. He's going back to Blatchford's house, knocking on the door because he probably just wants cash. So that was very, very intense. I think it just brought up a whole other layer of craziness.
Yeah, and it just really showed the desperation that, you know, it's like he had an idea in his head of a first love. That didn't work. He had an idea of his head of using Norman Blatchford for all the money. That didn't work. And he's also getting older, and, you know, ain't nothing worse than you know, he's a young, hot thing over there, you know, on the Hillcrest
You
scene or
start
whatever.
pushing 28 though.
But he's pushing 28. It's like gay years. This is you done, you know. So and then I think the reports in the real truth was, you know, he'd gained some weight, pushed drugs. So I think that was really necessary to just show all of the just like he spun out of control.
Right. And I really think, what do you guys think of that scene when he's knocking at the door begging for his old lover to let him in? I'm convinced that it's because of the drugs, because as twisted as he is, he has too much pride to go back there.
He's like, yeah, he's clearly on a bender. He's clearly like, you know, strung out, doing his thing. But one thing
I don't know. You would say that's a just drug related.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he is a user, and I think once it's like the moment something goes awry. I'm sorry.
No.
Once something goes awry, he'll just continuously, like, you know, roll things around in his head and decide what is the best option. I mean, even when they said he went to Minneapolis, they were saying that he was talking to a lot of friends, saying, "Oh, I'm gonna go live in San Francisco with my sister for a while." So I just think his mind is constantly like rolling. So I don't know that that's a drug only thing. That's all I'm saying.
Or was it always rolling because he was like, we don't know the extent of the drug you said he did. And so I always wonder now, since none of the actions seem to make too much sense, did he get to a point where he was just really strung out on these drugs and that's what made him completely erratic?
This episode made me feel bad for him in a lot of ways.
Really, just this one?
Yeah. I mean, and I got a little bit of the human part this one, but the other one's not so much.
It did humanize him in so many ways, but
did it also make you feel worse for the victims too? I had an equal.
I wasn't focused on the victims, to be completely honest.
Like, this is the first time we haven't seen him kill someone in a
right
while.
right now, I was just focused on Andrew and the fact that you're a smart individual. You have to think about it as you have to see yourself in Andrew, right?
Yeah.
If you're a smart person and you have so much going for you, but then something bigger and shinier came along, so you're like, "Ooh, this looks fun. Let me just put all these other things on hold." And then you realize that you're 27 years old and you haven't amounted to anything really, and this is what you're living off of, and it's kind of your lifestyle.
Right.
And this is the only thing you can depend on in your mind. And then you get caught up in these high-class drugs, and then you mix it in with low-class drugs, and then people are starting to judge you, and you're losing everything and all the relationships around you. So then you really do start to spiral out of control, and you start to lose it as a person.
Yeah.
It's almost, you know, we all have our different breakdowns. Some of us cry, and some of us try to regroup. Other people just really go off the rocker and just snap.
Yeah, and I think to a degree that was it was a relief in the episode that we kind of got to focus on Andrew, because I feel like the past couple episodes were just like, no, don't kill him, don't run away, don't make this move. And so we actually got to kind of go, let me look at the character, what's driving him, what's motivating him.
I still want Versace though. We got to see a tidbit, but which I thought was interesting. It kind of gave a bit more motivation. So like, okay, this is where it stems from. He's tripping out on drugs and he's thinking of Versace.
That he's more powerful than Versace.
Yeah, exactly. What do you guys think about that whole trip?
I mean, I loved it because we finally got more Versace. Just hearing the accent, it was like, okay, this is what I'd come to the series for.
Yeah.
I thought it was so great because I don't think it was just Versace. I think anyone that had done better than Andrew, he thought it was a matter of luck, because he thought he had the underlying tools and skills to be them. And so it was just a matter of work. And you just see the way he's jealous of those who have worked for it.
Right, and even Blatchford, to your point, was saying like you can have all these things. All these things are accessible. I will pay for college for you. You are smart. You can have all these things, but you're afraid of work, which I thought was so interesting.
Yeah.
And you have to realize, that, like you said, the dad cheated on stocks. Like maybe he learned that you can be successful and you don't have to work for it, and that was something attractive to him at some point.
I also wonder if there's a part. I'm not dismissing the idea that multiple people in this episode said was like the common theme.
You
Hey,
don't work, Andrew. but
Andrew, you
can.
don't work. We work. That's why we have success. But there is a thing about this life that, like, there are times. Maybe I'm just being like glass half empty with wine. There are times in this life where you do everything that you're supposed to do, like, and things won't actually materialize. And I'm kind of wondering if when we get to the part with the father, if that sudden, even though the father did his stuff, I wonder if that part of Andrew seeing that will shock him enough where he'll start to develop maybe even a fake story in his head where it's like, well, my father did everything he was supposed to do, and now boom, I think his father went away when he was about 18 or 17 or something, real prominent time, I suppose. And so I'm not dismissing it by any means, you guys. I'm saying yes, hard work is ultimate, but I'm also saying, like, when things happen to you, do you start to like sit with them and say, you don't believe as much anymore? I'm only saying because I've had moments in my life where I'm like, like, I'm not saying fuck the hard work, but I am saying, you know what I mean? It's cute to say it. Am I making any sense?
No,
you are.
You're making sense, but I would say I think that, and I had this happen a little bit. He was identified as being smart early on, and he thought that was enough because people started just giving him things, and his own family obviously gave him to the point, gave him a master bedroom, whatever. That's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
And so, like, I remember when I was in elementary school, I did well on like an IQ test, and it was sort of the same thing. Oh, you did well on this IQ test in elementary school. The world is now yours, right? And so you feel like now it should just become mine. I don't have to work for this.
You didn't get arrogant about it, though, did you?
I didn't get arrogant about it, but the idea that because you're
Shaka
smart,
was like,
you now get
"Thank you."
things. No, that life is now set.
You were always so humble. I can only imagine. You were like, "Thank you, I really appreciate that. Is there anything I can help you with?"
Well, you miss the idea of getting to work though, because you don't, because they say, okay, you're smart, so now here's what life will now give you. But then you go, wait, I actually have to now continue to study and make sure the grades are good, and, that whole deal.
I never understood when families or people just in general just build individuals up so much like above the actuality that it creates this fantasy.
But it happens to your children, and so it's easy. Because you who doesn't want to build up a 10-year-old?
I mean, I was
No.
raised on knock you down and build you.
Thank you.
I really was.
I don't
like,
understand.
you got an A on that test, but you could have gotten an A+. Like, what were you lagging on?
Yeah, that's how I was raised. So that's
I guess
why
I
worked.
wasn't enough.
I thought you were going to say something.
No, I wasn't gonna say anything.
What
I
are
was
you
just
thinking randomly, RJ?
I was just gonna say. I think the wine is starting to kick in. No, I was just gonna say, it's a problem when there's no consequences, and that's the thing. So he came from a life of no consequences. Can we briefly talk about how I was happy that Jeff sort of you spoke on it a little, but how Jeff really got mad at Andrew about the
postcard.
the postcard. I felt like that scene was needed. I thought he held his own, and I thought he was maybe even going to get a little more mad about the Navy thing. Obviously, we have that conversation in the next episode, but
see, that's why this episode was like irksome for me because those things didn't happen. Because I think if they had actually happened, Jeff never sees Andrew again, and so that's why it was irksome to me. Because I thought the postcard is such a big deal. Telling him he must pretend to be a naval officer is such a big deal that someone like Jeff Trail might have gone along with it for that moment, but he would have never seen Andrew Cunanan again.
Oh, I know. And then when he sees him at the airport the next episode,
He
it's
would have
like,
never-
No, but it's like, oh, the three amigos are back together. Andrew made by Andrew saying that, it made me think that they had this, 3 years of just
And then
fun.
we know in reality,
Friendship.
Jeff Trail never was at the airport to pick him up.
Right.
So that's why this episode. I love the episode of the standalone. If I don't know what actually happened, the episode of the standalone was great. To get all those people in one room, amazing, right?
And to have your 4 boyfriends in one picture.
Right,
That's what I'm
that was so awkward. Get the serial killer out of there regardless. That's an awkward
You
situation.
killed 3 out of the 4 people in the picture. It was great.
I know. It's so crazy. So crazy.
Well, let's go into our predictions. I guess we know a little bit of what happens next episode, but what do you got?
Predictions. Thank you, Jeff in the booth. I love a little sound drop on those. Predictions. You know what? I've been saying this since episode 1. We're on episode 6. Please, FX gods, make my wish come true. Give me more Versace. That's why I came here to see. These hallucinating drug scenes are just not cutting it for me.
Oh.
They're not. They're cute, but no. I need to see Ricky Martin. I need to see Donatella. We did see the previews.
In the previews, right? Weren't you lit up when you were like, oh yes,
Yes,
more.
but they've been teasing us so much. I've thought, and I was in those previews, we only see a few scenes, right? It's the same. I'm nervous. I want more. It better be more. But
do you know what kind of scenes you would like to see?
I want to see more about the business of Versace. I want to find out how. The company was going to go public, that whole situation. I want to find out how the public reacts to Gianni being gay. Does that actually even come out? I know he did that interview, but it wasn't super publicized at the time, but it was still public knowledge. I want to see how people react to that. And I know this is, the assassination of Gianni Versace, but I want to see a funeral. I want to see a star-studded funeral.
Naomi, Princess Diana, Elton John.
Anything that booms and represents like that lavishness. I would love to see a couple more runways.
Right.
The great music. Like in today's episode, we had Freedom with George Michael. Stuff of that. Like just opulence, as you said.
And I will give that they've gotten the music right every single
really
episode.
True, but I could think of a couple other songs too. I want a little more. Like, we got to be fair, as we're critical here, only because we want the best.
Yeah.
Not because we're petty.
Yeah. I want to understand more. What is Versace? What did Versace back then mean? And what's this legacy that he planted the seeds back then, and now that we know now, and I want to see the world react to him alive and react to him being dead.
Yeah.
Oh, can I co-sign yours? Part 2. Also, going off the Versace thing, I would love to see more on the story of how he was really essentially in a layover in Florida, and then decided to stay in Miami, and that is when he fell in love with the Casarino, I'm sorry, and how he decided to say, "Ooh, this is the place I want to live," and wow, I feel safer here, because I guess he had a fear of the mob of some sort too. Yeah. I think that's such a prominent part of the Versace thing. And then if we're gonna build it all to this idea of like this is the assassination of, and it ends up in that spot, that could maybe be. Like you said, more Versace stuff. That would be one that I would really love to see.
My last one also that I want to see is I want to see all these people that we saw in this episode react to Andrew Cunanan doing these killing sprees, right? Because it's going to become public knowledge. He's going to be running for a few days.
Norman's got to be like, whew, right?
Right? I want to see people reacting, like his mom, everyone. As we mentioned, we saw Lizzie, his junior high friend from junior high, who he's the godfather for her son.
Who must feel guilty that she kind of like was co-signing this stuff for her friend, because she was doing what a good friend would do. Right. But now you realize the consequences.
Right.
No, I wouldn't say that was a good friend.
I mean, in terms of just having his back for a lie he's telling to get a guy. She's just like,
maybe she was just a good friend when they were young, and they sort of revisited friendship when they were older. Like,
no, I mean a good friend in the sense that she was willing to help him lie.
She was like, get your man.
Yeah, in that way, that she was willing to help him lie to get the guy, not knowing that him lying to get the guy was also him lying to murder the guy eventually. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, again, they've been friends for a significant time. He's 27 in this episode. They've been friends since junior high. Yeah. You mean she made him the godson of her son, godfather of her son? That's something. And actually, in real life, the FBI pushed her to make a video pleading to Andrew, saying like, please stop these killing sprees.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So she's got to just be like.
This video unfortunately never made it to him because he put a gun through his mouth before then. But anyway, so. Doing the research tonight and finding that out, I'm like, okay, I want to see more of that. I want to see these people reacting to seeing Andrew on these killing sprees.
Instead of just being incredulous to his lies, but still being his friend.
Right, exactly. But
predictions quickly.
I want to see the struggle between Donatella and Ricky, or Penelope and Ricky. Yeah. Because there obviously is a battle there, and I know there was also a battle between Donatella and Gianni, because that's the love of his life, and his sister is also the love in his heart. So there's awkward tension that I want to know how it's handled, and how he as an individual is affected by that. Because to have the person that you love with all your heart disliked by the person who's been in your heart your whole life, that's a tragedy in itself. And then obviously I want to see the buildup of, Versace's greatest success is also his biggest tragedy, because it was very important to him to get that house and mansion because of the persona and the vibe and everything and that it represented, but let alone led to his ultimate destination. Or I'm messing up my words, but ultimate Just a smidge.
All
I'm
right.
off.
But for me, I will take them at a card table playing cards. Gianni Versace, Donatello Versace. That's what I just think we have so many rich characters, no pun intended, in this that we haven't explored. Like, I just want to see Johnny, Donatello. I want to see them all at the table just talking.
And now that we've done
Let it go.
now
Let
that
it
we've
go.
done enough on Andrew, we're wrapping up now. And as we've done enough on Andrew in his younger youth type life, I want to see a little bit more of like what led to all this, because you don't just get from where he was at to Norman Blatchford. You also I think he had a really big social scene in Hillcrest first. So I want to see that first. But on the Gianni side, aside from wanting to see more butts, I do want to see more butts, of course. I want to see maybe how he developed the relationship even with Antonio. That's something that I think we could. This show seems to do a lot of parallels, so let's do the parallel between when Gianni was younger and his.
I like that.
He's done hooked up, but then he found the one. So stuff like that.
We'll see how it goes. Randomly, RJ says more butts.
Oh.
My name is Shaka Smith. You guys can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, Shaka Strong.
Hey, randomly RJ.
And you can find me at Russell Ray Silva across the whole internet.
All of our friends, you can find me at Bonjour Juliet on Instagram.
We'll see you next week. Maybe
Bye.
more
From
butts.
executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.